one of history's most mysterious women. With her power, her intellect, and her irresistible charm, the Queen of Egypt, Cleopatra, managed to captivate the most powerful leaders of the Roman Empire. To know her only for her beauty would be a grave mistake. For Cleopatra's sexuality, her passions, and her legendary excesses made her far more than just an ordinary queen. In this film, we will explore Cleopatra's games of love, her world-shaping relationships, and the striking myths she left behind. If you're ready, let us lift the veil on one of the most dazzling and controversial rulers in history. Chapter 1. Queen of the Nile, Shadow of Desire. Born on the banks of the Nile, she became one of the most debated rulers of an empire. The last pharaoh of Egypt, the brightest star of the Ptolemaic dynasty, and the woman who enchanted Rome's mighty generals, Cleopatra VII. Her name is etched not only into political history, but into the very history of sexuality itself. The stories told about her often wander between fact and legend, but one truth is undeniable. Cleopatra's allure came not from beauty alone, but from her mastery in using sexuality as a weapon of power. Childhood and first lessons. Our story begins in 69 BC in the great city of Alexandria. Inside the shadowy chambers of the royal palace, the young Cleopatra listens closely to whispers in the dark. The palace women teach her more than language, poetry, and politics. They teach her that the body too can be a weapon. In ancient Egypt, sexuality was no taboo. It was seen as a natural force. Temple carvings depicted the unions of gods, rituals of fertility, and sacred ceremonies of love. Growing up with such imagery, Cleopatra learned that the body was nothing to be hidden, but a force to be mastered, the queen who dazzled Rome. Ascending the throne at a young age, Cleopatra fought not only to defend her crown, but to secure the survival of her dynasty. And here, sexuality became her most effective instrument of diplomacy. Two towering figures at the heart of Rome, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, were drawn into her orbit. Historians write that Cleopatra swayed them not only through intelligence and politics, but through her command in the bedroom. From Cassius Dio to Plutarch, many chroniclers insist that Cleopatra mastered the art of desire like no other. Shadows of rumor. But here we must pause and ask, was Cleopatra truly such an unparalleled enchantress? Or were these stories the product of Roman propaganda designed to belittle their foreign rival? One rumor claimed she lay with 1,000 men. Most likely, this was a weapon of slander. Ancient Rome often smeared powerful foreign women as harlots. Yet, true or not, such tales forever bound her name to sexuality. The politics of passion. As the film reminds us, in the ancient world, sexuality was not only personal, it was political. And for Cleopatra, the bedchamber could be as strategic as the throne room. Her relationship with Caesar was not only an affair, but an alliance. Her bond with Antony shaped the fate of Rome's civil wars. Their unions sealed not just the destiny of two lovers, but the destiny of empires. The power of myth over the centuries, Cleopatra became the very symbol of dangerous desire. In medieval Europe, stories told of her poisonous lips, her deadly gaze, and her insatiable hunger. Modern novels and films carried these myths forward. Elizabeth Taylor's iconic portrayal immortalized her not only as a woman of charm, but as history's ultimate seductress. Chapter 2. The Diplomacy of the Bedchamber. As the waves of the Nile tore through the night, another storm was unfolding deep within the palace of Alexandria. Despite her youth, Cleopatra had already learned the ruthless face of politics. Armies alone could not keep her on the throne. Rome's shadow had fallen over Egypt, and the fate of the Ptolemaic dynasty now rested in the hands of the Roman Senate. For Cleopatra, her body was worth as much as gold at the diplomatic table. The meeting with Caesar, the queen in the carpet. One of the most famous tales recorded by ancient sources is Cleopatra's first encounter with Julius Caesar. According to legend, she had herself wrapped in a carpet and presented as a gift to Caesar. When the carpet was unrolled, the dazzling young queen appeared before him. This was not just a romantic gesture, it was the transformation of sexuality into a tool of diplomacy. By sharing her first night with Caesar, she was also securing her throne. Historians tell us that in Caesar's bed, Cleopatra was not only a lover, but a queen. She revealed her intelligence through words, her passion through her gaze, and so the most powerful man in Rome found himself under the spell of a woman sovereign, a stranger in Rome. But things were different in Rome. When Caesar brought Cleopatra with him, the senators bristled at her presence. They believed a foreign queen had seduced Caesar to influence Roman politics. Thus, Cleopatra became known in Rome as a sorceress of desire. Yet this image also reflected her political power. A woman's dominance in the bedchamber could alter the destiny of empires. Antony's Intoxication. After Caesar's death, Cleopatra's path crossed with Marcus Antonius. Their love became the stuff of legend, retold as a tale of passion. In Alexandria, they hosted lavish banquet nights woven with wine and desire. Ancient writers describe Cleopatra as both lover and goddess, enchanting Antony not only with her body, but also as the living embodiment of the goddess Isis. Another tale claims that Cleopatra and Antony would spend nights in disguise, playing roles fisherman, peasant, soldier, even deity. Each time, Cleopatra transformed the stage into a theater of desire. These games were not mere indulgence, but symbols of her command over him. The 1,000-men rumor. Roman sources went even further in their attempts to vilify her, branding her as the woman who had lain with 1,000 men. Of course, such claims are impossible, but they reveal how Cleopatra's sexuality evoked fear in Rome. In a world ruled by men, a woman who wielded her sexuality with intent was seen as the greatest of threats. The tactical power of sexuality, here the narrator emphasizes, for Cleopatra, sexuality was not simply a pursuit of pleasure, it was strategy. Her bond with Caesar gave her a son, Caesarion, a living guarantee for the future of both Egypt and Rome. Her union with Antony was an attempt to build a new power center in the eastern Mediterranean against Rome itself. Both relationships were filled with passion, but beyond passion lay politics. Cleopatra's name became legend in her own lifetime. Some called her the earthly incarnation of Aphrodite, goddess of love. Others damned her as a sorceress whose body led empires to ruin. This dual image reveals once more how powerful her sexuality truly was, a weapon as sharp as any sword. Chapter 3. The Labyrinth of Legends. Cleopatra's name, even centuries after her death, was remembered not only as that of a queen, but also as a symbol of passion. Writings about her sexuality often blurred the lines between fact and myth. From the ancient world to modern times, She was portrayed by writers sometimes as a goddess, sometimes as a courtesan, and at other times as a sorceress. One of the most intriguing tales is the legend that Cleopatra poisoned her lovers with golden goblets filled with wine. According to this story, after intimacy, she would offer her partner a drink infused with a hidden mixture. In this way, she satisfied her desire while ensuring her secrets remained safe. Although there is no historical evidence, this legend contributed to the image of Cleopatra's sexuality as something fatal. Another story claims that Cleopatra took part in erotic rites at the Temple of Aphrodite. In these festivals, held in honor of the goddess, sexuality was performed as a sacred ritual. Cleopatra was said to have played the leading role, presenting herself as the living embodiment of the goddess. This tale shows how her sexuality was imagined not merely as physical, but also wrapped in a divine aura. The tale of the love diamond. Among medieval writers, another tale spread about Cleopatra's use of a magical stone called the love diamond. This gem, it was said, could stir desire in anyone she touched. Of course, no historical foundation exists for this, but in the public imagination, Cleopatra's allure was transformed into a supernatural force. Her magnetism was explained as though it were a spell beyond human understanding. Nights with the fishermen, Roman sources mockingly recount yet another story. Cleopatra, in disguise, would sail with fishermen to amuse Mark Antony, and at the end of the night, she would stage sensual games. This tale illustrates how theatrical her sexuality was imagined to be. Cleopatra was not only a lover, but also a performer who orchestrated the stage of desire. Cleopatra's secret vessel of vibrations. Throughout history, Cleopatra has been remembered not only for her beauty, but also for her intelligence, political genius, and curiosity for innovation. The name of Egypt's powerful queen became associated not only with politics and love stories, but also with a mysterious invention, the first vibrator. Though no direct evidence of such a device exists in ancient records, Roman and Greek anecdotes describe Cleopatra's use of an unusual vessel. According to legend, this vessel was filled with buzzing bees or insects to produce vibrations. It was said to serve both for medical relief and for personal pleasure. Chapter 4. Where desire and death intertwine. Throughout Cleopatra's life, beauty, charm, and intelligence walked side by side. Her allure played a role not only in her political maneuvers and diplomatic meetings, but also in her personal relationships. Even in death, these three elements remained inseparable. Cleopatra's suicide, in the eyes of historians, was not merely a political decision, but also a carefully staged scene of symbolism and aesthetics. Thus, even in her final moments, she was remembered as a symbol of desire and power. In 30 BC, with the loss of the Battle of Actium, Cleopatra's political balance collapsed. Marcus Antonius's support weakened, and Rome's dominance in the east became certain. Augustus seized Egypt, gaining both strategic and economic advantage. His plan was simple: to take Cleopatra to Rome and display her as a captive in his triumphal procession. But Cleopatra would not allow her royal dignity to be stained by such humiliation. For her, the choice between life and death was also a choice between preserving honor and enduring disgrace. Ancient writers often describe her suicide as a carefully planned act of both pride and intellect. The image of the serpent, the most famous account, claims that Cleopatra ended her life with a venomous snake. In antiquity, The serpent symbolized not only death, but also rebirth and sexual energy. For this reason, the ASP pressed to her breast was seen as far more than a means of death. It was a powerful metaphor. Plutarch writes that Cleopatra chose a method that would not mar her beauty. This suggests that even in death, her decision carried an aesthetic dimension. The emphasis on her beauty and allure at the moment of death later laid the foundation for centuries of erotic imagery. The death of Antony and a shared fate. Antonius's own death forged a dramatic link to Cleopatra's story. According to tradition, when he was gravely wounded, he was carried to her side, and the two spent their final moments together. Historians describe this as the moment when love and death became inseparable. Ancient accounts differ. Some say Antony died in Cleopatra's arms, others that she cradled him in his final breath. Either way, their fates were sealed together both politically and personally. Rome's narrative. Cleopatra's suicide thwarted Augustus' plans. Without a captive queen for his triumph, Rome turned to propaganda. Cleopatra was cast as the dangerous seductress who lured Antony astray and disrupted Roman order. For Roman writers, her death symbolized the punishment of immorality. Her charm was portrayed as a weapon, and Antony's downfall as the inevitable consequence of her spell. Thus, Cleopatra's end became part of Rome's story of justified victory. Medieval morality. In the Middle Ages, Cleopatra's death was reinterpreted within a Christian framework. In illuminated manuscripts, she appeared naked or half-naked, attacked by a snake, a figure paying the price of sin. Her sensuality was transformed into a warning. The wages of lust is death. During this era, Cleopatra's allure was not celebrated as beauty, but retold as a moral lesson. The Renaissance and the aesthetics of death. Renaissance artists approached Cleopatra's end with drama and elegance. In paintings, she appeared marble-skinned, wrapped in silk at the height of her beauty. The serpent's bite was shown as a small mark upon her breast. By contrasting her radiant beauty with her death, artists sought to create a striking aesthetic effect. Here, Cleopatra became more than a queen. She was immortalized as the woman who remained beautiful even in death. By the 19th century, her story took on new meanings. Romantic writers saw her suicide as a symbol of freedom, her final act of control over her own fate. Female authors especially portrayed her choice not as despair, but as resistance and dignity. In the 20th century, cinema revived Cleopatra's death with lavish spectacle. Hollywood depicted her draped in silks, bathed in dramatic light, a vision of both tragedy and irresistible allure. Where desire meets death, Cleopatra's story proves this. Death could not erase her allure. From ancient texts to Renaissance paintings, from medieval morality to modern cinema, her suicide has always been told as the point where desire and death intersect. The Queen of the Nile lives on in history not only as a ruler or a lover, but as a figure whose death itself was imbued with beauty, symbolism, and emotion. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on new content. See you in the next video. Take care.